Welcome back to another episode of Run Yogi Diaries. This is your host, Santosh Shiva. If you're new to the channel, please do remember to subscribe. If you like this conversation, hit like and leave your comments below and let us know what you think. A very special episode today to talk about a project that I'm personally very involved in, is very dear to me, and I collaborate with Dr Srinivas Panja and Nirmala Panja, who are dear friends. And the project that they've put together, which is the Runforjeev Foundation, is something that was born out of a tragedy, but has been evolving into something that is making a huge difference and has big dreams to make more difference in the society, especially around mental health. And we get together today to speak with Dr. Srinivas Panja about his experience around this tragedy and how they have dealt with grief as well as reframed this tragedy into something larger that can make a difference to all of us. So let's dig in, and I hope you take something away from this conversation, and please do support the Runforjeev Foundation. We would appreciate that a lot. Thank you. Let's dig in. Welcome back to Run Yogi Diaries.
Thank you, Santosh. Good to be back.
Glad to have you back. And just for as a quick context setting, we're going to talk about something important today. We're going to talk about mental health, and we're also going to talk about a foundation that Dr. Srini Panja has started, and I'm kind of a collaborator in that foundation as well. It is called Runforjeev. So we're going to get into what is Runforjeev, why the purpose behind it, and what is the story behind it. There's something that's happened in Dr. Panja's life that has led to some of these initiatives. So we're going to get into all of that, and there's also a 5K that's coming up in November. So we will also talk about that and how you can, people who are listening to this can participate, can register for that 5K and contribute to this cause. So that's all what we're going to talk about. But before that, let me once again just kind of take a stab at introducing who you are, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. So yes, Santosh, it's good to be back. So Srinivas Panja, I'm a practicing endocrinologist. Yes, I think since we last spoke, life has changed significantly. Life as we knew was kind of got upside down on the 12th of February 2022. My son, who was at that time 20 years old, took his own life. Of course, like anybody else's kid, the news came to us as an earth-shattering news and completely something that was very unexpected. And I remember the first podcast we did, one of my motivation for running was my son Sanjeev, who did his first 10K when he was in 4th grade. Mm-hmm. So yeah, things have changed significantly. Things have been much more different in our eyes. Mm-hmm. What we do now has been much different from what we thought it was going to be in 2022. As me and my wife, Nimi, who you know, and Shruti, as we have been navigating this grieving process, and it's been rough, but of course we've been able to navigate it with the help of family, friends, definitely friends like you. And the big part of it was the running too, which has helped us navigate this pain. But one thing, and I think I have to credit that to Nimi, is she said, Srinu, Sanjeev's life cannot go in vain. What has happened cannot just be something that we keep in our mind and grieve about. Our story needs to be told. Mm-hmm. If something like this could be happening to us, where, by all means, pretty stable family, it could happen to anybody. And I think people need to know mental health is a big issue, and unless we tell our story out, I don't think we'll be doing any justice to what has happened. So that's where we are in very short.
Yeah.
In a very short few words.
Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. I mean, it's obviously life has turned 360 degrees, or it has turned in a way that you may have not imagined, but the way you have gone about dealing with it is something that a lot of people can learn something for their own lives as well. Life for all of us, I mean, maybe sounding a little philosophical here, but the fact of life is we all start with thinking that things will go in a particular manner, or the life is a very linear set of events. We all grow up reading stories or watching movies, and we have this view that life is a set of series of events and they go pretty predictably. And we find out when we're actually living it that it's a lot of topsy-turvy curves and googlies, as some cricketers would call it. And we're constantly having to deal with these shocks and surprises. And something like what you're dealing with is obviously something on the other end of this extreme that no one should be having to deal with. But the way you have dealt with it is amazing. So we're going to get into all of that, right?
Yes.
So let's start with how have you, if you can talk a little bit about, in a sense that can be of some value to people who deal with something similar. Maybe 3 or 4 key points that have helped you deal with this grief in a way that doesn't, push you under the the ground, right? How have you dealt with that?
Yeah. So, and I think I'll tell you a few ways that me and Nimi have dealt with it. But for sure, I think it's different for every single person. I mean, I never thought I would be able to even move a day. I mean, something like this was never dreamt about it. So you never get prepared for these things. One thing that has helped is, of course, talking. I mean, talking to family, talking to friends. When I am being dragged down, and it happens quite a lot, I talk to Nimi. When Nimi feels down, she talks to me. We do kind of convince ourselves that there was nothing that we could have done that would have stopped this, and we did the best we could do as parents at that time and at what we knew. I mean, none of this was something we had even thought. We didn't think he was going through any kind of mental health issues, but so that is one way we come about it. Something else that has consistently helped me and Nimi has been running. There are days we wake up and feel very down to even think about going to go running. But if we take that step and go out running, I mean, that's one thing that has really made a huge help, where we come back feeling so much better. So the exercise part of it, be it running or be it yoga, which my dad has been teaching us, had made a huge impact. And it's been both for me and Nimi, absolutely. So it's hard to say if there's one thing that has helped, but these are the 2 things that have significantly helped.
Okay.
And the third thing that has helped, though it is kind of tough to do it initially on, is actually talking about the event itself, talking about what happened, talking just to see and make other people aware that this is something can happen. I've never talked about it in the past, but talking about it might actually help, because I think mental health is a big problem out there. And so being able to, trying to think that, we're putting some purpose to what has this madness and craziness has happened has been helping us too. So the foundation has certainly, it takes us down sometimes, but most of the time the foundation has kind of given us a lot of, strength to say, I think, he touched a lot of people's life when he was around, and looks like he wants to continue to do that, and he's doing it. And we feel that through the foundation we're doing it. I think time will tell, but
Yeah.
we do think the conversation around mental health is changing with the foundation, and that certainly has also made a lot of help. And really, friends, being around friends and being around people like you, Rupa, and all the other friends we have around certainly has always lifts us up constantly.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, what's working is talking to each other as a couple, right? And I do want to double click on the quality of conversation. What is the conversation kind? How do couple support each other when they're going through this? Because look, we all know, we've seen couples go apart, right? In times of crisis. So there's something that you're doing right as a couple to come together at this time of crisis, and we should get into that. Second, you said, running/yoga, active lifestyle is helping just get out of this constant state of maybe sadness or this doomsday feeling of when something goes wrong. You're able to get up and just go exercise and detach yourself from that, right? So second thing was that. And third thing you talked about was the foundation itself, right? Like taking something like this and finding some purpose which has a larger impact. So we'll get into all of those three. And of course, the fourth thing you talked about is friends and social connections. So let's double click on each one of them. So the first thing, right? The way as a couple you have come together. So how did you do that? I mean, have you taken some advice? Have you read some books? Or is it just naturally happened?
So I think we certainly read books, but for me and Nimi, I think as far as how it came for us together, I think it came naturally. We've been generally very easygoing parents. We've never, our sense of advice and direction to them has been pretty much the same. A lot initially on, the big thing for me was, how come as a dad I could not save my son? That's, for me, it was the primary duty. And I think there, Nimi would constantly say, hey, you did the best you can. I think for some circumstances, you as a dad did what you're supposed to do. And you did the best thing, and really he did well. He did very well in school. So that, her kind of telling me, hey, you know what, this is not your fault.
Right.
This is not your doing. And Nimi also goes through the same thing. She talks to him pretty much every day. Her thing was, hey, how could I not? I talk to him every day. If anybody would have known, it would have made me. So, and I tell her the same thing. Nimi, it's, there is nothing you could have done as a mom, or that nothing you have not done as a mom that any other mom wouldn't do. I mean, we've shown them love, and I think they appreciate it. And me and Nimi continue to think that, whatever he did was probably more out of way too much love for us, because I don't think he wanted us to see him go through any suffering. So, like I said, the answer, and we think about it, why, and he has the answers and he's not here. But that's how we were having this conversation driving here.
Right.
And it was pretty much the same thing that, it is, we as parents did what we knew the best.
Right.
And from the 20 years that we've had with him, not a single thing showed us that we did anything that we shouldn't do. I mean, good-mannered kid, talks very well, has done very well, extremely well in school. Tons of friends.
Yeah.
Just gauging by the number of people who came for the
right
for the funeral. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and we should spend some time around that as a general, learning, right, from your own experience. But I think what I'm hearing, what you're saying is, in terms of what is working as a couple in a time of crisis like this, right, is the fact that you are there for each other. You are, I almost hear like you're putting yourself in the other person's shoe. You, like in your case, you're going through a certain level of guilt, right? And, I think that's what happens to us as humans, right? When something, especially with regards to kids, something goes not as per planned, you are blaming yourself. And people who are listening to this, I'm sure can relate to that, right? It's, no matter what you do, something happens which is outside your control. It could be, in an extreme case like this, what you're dealing with, but even smaller transgressions or smaller things that have not gone as per plan, parents would blame themselves. And what I'm hearing in terms of as a couple that you come together is you are supporting each other as two individual people, as humans, right? As people, hey, you did your best, and there's it happened. It's so that's one thing I'm hearing. So people who can take some takeaways from how you're working on it. So that's one big takeaway.
Yeah, totally. I think I couldn't have put it better than you did. But I think that guilt is natural.
Yeah.
But in general, I think we all do the best we would do at the time of what we know. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
So, yes, I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, again, I want to underscore the point is that you are helping your spouse feel the burden, lessening that burden, right?
Yes.
And she's helping you lessen your burden of that guilt.
And absolutely.
That is the crux.
That is the crux. And I think it's for most of the couples too, but when she talks about what she's going through at that time, I can totally relate it. I mean, I know what she's going through because I've had those thoughts at some point, which I talked to her about.
Yeah.
And so I know, I feel what she's going through. That's most of it is, I mean, unfortunately, we sometimes go through that few times a day. Sometimes it is every day, sometimes few days a week. But yes, we pull each other's up, and then we constantly talk to ourselves and say, hey, you know what? There's two things we can do. One is either we drag ourselves down and everybody around us down, or we gather the strength, pull ourselves up, move forward, and that's what Sanju would want.
Right.
I mean, and Shruti's there. She's of course been a huge factor in how we have been able to move through her journey. Her we can talk about later on, but her tenacity, her strength that she focused into her studies and everything else has been her way to put her way through this grief. And I think for me, I just feel she thought, Sanju would want me to show mom and dad what they would have thought about him and about her. And I just feel she's taking the role of both of them right now. The other thing, she doesn't have to, but...
Yeah. That that makes sense. It's almost like, all of you are... and I'm going to abstract out some of these, right, as practices, because... while yours is a specific story, but there are some, some ideas or principles that are at work here. And again, here, what I'm hearing is almost reframing of an event, right? I mean, if you can take an event and frame it as you can frame it in such a way that you can end up feeling like a victim. Or you can frame it in such a way that you feel like we have to keep going on and we can't afford to be victims, and we're going to make a difference and we're going to do what best we can do given the situation, right? So again, Shruti is your daughter, and for people who don't know, that's what's happening, right?
Yes.
Now coming to the second part, right? So one is as couple, as a family, you're banding together, you're supporting each other, you're being empathetic, you're reframing. The other part you talked about is active lifestyle. So talk a little bit of how that is helping.
Yeah, so so we talked about it in the podcast last time. Running was completely alien to us till Sanju first signed up for his 10K when he was training in Wisconsin, middle of early in the morning, cold weather. He would train, and then after he did, he said, "Told Dad, if I can do it, I think you can do it, and you should sign up." And that's when I signed up for my first 10K and half marathon. And since then, Nimi picked up, and it's been, it's just been something that we've been constantly doing. We felt great about it. We made great friends around it. And as we were going through our grieving process, we were just trying to say, okay, running was way down in the priority at that time, and I think it was a conversation. All of you were there a few days after it happened, and we thought we should do a run, and me and Nimi ran. It just mind felt a whole lot better, almost like take an antidepressant, I would say. I don't know how that would feel for others, but for me, almost like a big heavy cloud being lifted off. So, and it has been the case since then, and we've continued to do it, and we clearly see on the days or the weeks that we don't, we are just a whole lot more down. Our energy levels are down. We are way more down in our moods. Motivation is way significantly down. And those are times where me and Nimi say, okay, you know what? Nimi, let's go.
Yeah.
Or Nimi says, Srinu, let's go. Or our friends, Radhika, Ravanya, pulling us up saying, okay guys, we got to go for the run. And we do the run, we come back, and I'm telling you, the next few days or even sometimes the week is just a whole lot more easier. Going to work and finish off work is much easier. So exercise has been therapeutic. I would, one word is therapeutic. It's just been a very strong factor in this year and a half that we have gone through. And each day we don't go, we just feel, oh my God, why did we miss it? But it's been, and I think there's plenty of studies too, and we've looked into those things more as we're going through this process. It helps a lot with mental health, supposed to help with anxiety, depression. So, but here, I tell you, it's made a big difference to our grieving process.
Yeah. That is very insightful. And, a lot of times people always think that running or any physical activity, that could be hiking or bicycling. In this case, of course, we're talking about running because we run, is a lot about mental health, right? An event like this can put you into depression. It can take you into dark corners of our minds, what I'm hearing in what you're saying is just going out there and running, being active, helps you just step back and get out of that rut, because end of the day, your lives have to keep going on, right? And of course, as a family, you're still a family, and there's your daughter, and so you have to function, and you can't. It's a terrible event, but at the same time, it can't knock you down to a point where you'll stop functioning. So a great point there about running and how it's helping you kind of step back and regain some energy and go back, and so you can do what you have to do. And you also mentioned yoga. So how's yoga helping you?
Yeah, so of course when this happened, parents came down. Dad does a lot of yoga. He's a yoga teacher too. And when he came down, he suggested to me and Nimi, you know what? I think you guys should try yoga. And we did. And absolutely, I think as part of the yoga, he makes us do a few yogasanas. He also gets to do the pranayams. And he ends it with Omkaram and some meditation. And right away, maybe a session or two, huge difference in terms of feeling a little peaceful inside, feeling a little bit of peace in the mind, not having these million, thoughts flying around, bouncing around.
Yeah.
So no doubt, and we, I think we wish and hope we would do it a little bit more often.
Yeah.
But we certainly do it whenever we can, and I'm telling you, it has made a big impact in terms of how we manage our grief and thoughts as well.
Yeah.
His dad's here right now, so he's now making us do it again. So we hope to continue to do it, and then leave in a few weeks.
That's great. Fantastic. So now, so we talked about that, and before we come to the foundation, now you also mentioned needs for social connections and friends that have helped you go through this grief a little bit less. I mean, a little bit easier than maybe if it was by yourself. And again, that's also an important point. I think we are dealing with mental health epidemic. Everybody is reading about it these days. Our kids are struggling with it, and unless the community comes together, and especially the kids are going through it, the parents are going through it even more because they don't know what to do for the kids. So anything you want to talk about that in terms of the community aspect?
Oh, absolutely. So the 2 weeks after what happened is for me still a complete blur. I just didn't know what was going on, and it was family and very close friends who pretty much took over, how the day-to-day functioning of the house and stuff. There's nothing that I even was able to put a mind to. So without, the support of the community at large and family who came from far away as well, I don't think me and Nimi and Shruti will be where we are, sitting where we are right now. I can tell you that with 100% conviction.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Not only just those 2 weeks, Santosh. I think the months, years, and even now, it is the friends and the community who continue to take care of us. I can never be as grateful as. There's no way I could have words to say how grateful I am. But without the community, I don't think we would have survived this big of a tragedy. No doubt about it.
Yeah, that is that makes sense. And so now let's get to the topic of the foundation, which is another aspect of how you have I would say redirected the angst and the sadness into something more that is purposeful. And there's a lot of work that's happened over the last 18 months on this. So let's talk about what the foundation is, what you wish to accomplish through this, and then we'll go from there, and we'll talk about the 5K as well.
Absolutely. So yes, as months went by, or months are going by, Nimi constantly, we both always were thinking, well, Sanjeev had a huge impact on a lot of people. I mean, the number of people he's touched is just unbelievable. The number of letters we get, which continue to get, unbelievable. So, we got to there's a bigger purpose to what has happened, and we got to find it. We can't let our pain make that purpose disappear. And the big one Nimi wanted to do is we got to do something about mental health. It's a huge thing. It's a huge problem. But we are we're no way pundits about mental health. We know we're not professionals about managing mental health. We know very little about it. And we also knew that we could not start a huge thing. So one thing we decided is we should tell our story. Mm-hmm. People should hear us. Mm-hmm. And B, there's a lot of stuff going out there, and I think I know you were involved a lot of it in terms of what we need to do, but we decided that we can't reinvent any wheels. There's a lot of help going on. There's a lot of stuff out there. I think we just need to support what's going on, support what is closer to our hearts, and supported by, best is by raising funds.
Mm-hmm.
So one day we thought we got to tell our story. So part of the telling our story was to start the foundation, to start the website, to talk about it. It's when I think about it, it is very difficult. To keep talking about it is it's not an easy thing, but we've been doing it, and I think we've now gotten a little bit more better at it. But the reason we want to tell our story is, like I mentioned before, I think there's a lot of families who have a very similar mix of what we have, and either the kids don't want to share it because they're worried the parent would not be able to bear it through it, or not be able to do much about it, or we as parents are not able to recognize what the kids are trying to tell. So we don't know. I think it's probably a mix, but that was the main reasoning behind starting the foundation, is to tell our story, to raise funds. And then we thought, well, what is the best way to raise funds? And we talked all about it. I know one day Nimi was sitting and she, out of the blue, said, you know what, we should start a Runforjeev. I mean, literally in the afternoon, I think she created the WhatsApp group and she put it all to all of us. So we thought, well, running was something that we started with Sanjeev. He was the one who introduced it to us. And I still feel, in all this great universe and connections, he probably introduced it to us because he knew we'll have to face something like this, and this is probably what's going to help us. So that was, well, running number one. That is what has kept us going. So it was fairly, to me and him, it was like, you know what, this is what we got to do.
Right.
A run, a walk, whatever it is, where we can raise some funds to help, other, whatever active minds of people like that were doing a lot as far as mental health awareness, suicide prevention in teens, young adults, schools, high schoolers. Yeah.
That's fantastic, because a foundation like this lives, it can live forever, right? And like so many foundations that we see today in the society that are contributing to so many causes, somebody thought about it somewhere. So this is great. First of all, beautiful name, right? Runforjeev literally means run for life, right?
Yes.
And this foundation is a 501c, non-for-profit organization. Whatever funds that are raised in this would be, like you were mentioning, would be used for projects but related to mental health.
Yes.
And we are also looking to collaborate. We're not looking to reinvent the wheel here. We're not doing fundamental research like you have the Parkinson's foundations and the diabetes foundations. We're not looking at fundamental research. We're looking to raise funds to potentially partner with or collaborate with organizations that could use these funds for certain projects. Could be in schools, could be for youth at risk, or there are thousands of ways to do that. And all of that is on the website runforjeev.com.
Yes.
And so really it's a project to not necessarily reinvent the wheel, but provide resources. The other thing, right?
Yes.
Because I think as we have been working on this project for the last year and a half, we're also realizing how little resources are available or accessible to common people. And specifically around South Asians.
Yes.
This conversation is about getting some attention, but most often than not, A, there's a denial, right? And B, if there is a slight iota of doubt of whether we need help and our kids need help or we need help as adults, we don't know where to go.
Yes.
So all of that is a part of the larger mission for Runforjeev. One is that youth and also, but at the same time, making resources accessible, right? And the And the race is on 26th of November, the Sunday, right?
26th November, which happens to be Sanjeev's birthday. He would have turned 22 on the 26th of November. Yeah.
Right. And it's a run for walk. It's a run and a walk. It's at least for the first few, for the last year and this year, we're keeping it non-competitive. It's for everybody to come in and participate.
Yes.
It's about the cause, and it's more about that than actually going out and competing in a 5K, right?
Absolutely. And I think I just feel people just coming and walking and thinking, run for Jeev and the foundation and why and mental health. I think just having, even if they think for a minute that mental health is something we need to keep in our minds. I mean, I think we have achieved our larger goal, specific goals about how many people we have impacted directly. I think will be hard to measure.
Yeah.
But I do feel the more people we reach out to, the more people who sign up and come and see a lot of other people who are also interested in the cause, I think helps spread the word. I mean, I feel at the end of the day, and I don't know how long it's going to take, we talk very, very little to almost nothing about mental health. I mean, that's what it has been for me till this happened. Till we get to a place where we talk about it as we talk about our blood pressure, diabetes, weights. I don't think we'll make big, inroads into mental health. I think the conversation has to happen.
Right.
People have to feel more open about it. People should not feel, they're stigmatized to talk about it. I don't think there's nothing wrong about it. That's where we have to be, and it's probably going to take time, one small step at a time. But
absolutely. And again, I think underscoring the fact that the South Asian community in specific, the more we can bring, more we can be honest about these conversations. Like you said, you're a physician yourself. I don't think anybody has any qualms in coming to you and saying, hey, I'm at risk of diabetes today. Nobody's shy about it. But I don't think necessarily in the community, and more specifically in our community, South Asian community, there is that that comfort in reaching out to somebody and saying, hey, you know what? I don't know. I don't feel good. I may need help. Most of the time, I think we rationalize it. We park it, and then it comes back and bites us. And if we are we are in that state as parents, then obviously the kids are not going to feel comfortable talking about it with us as well.
No, I totally agree. Totally agree about it. I mean, I've never talked about it before.
Yeah.
It was not a thing that I would have even imagined was. I never talked about even Sanjeev, but I talk about it now to Shruti very openly.
Yeah.
But but clearly it's there, whether you talk about it or not. I think if you talk about it, you can do something about it.
Yeah.
You never know. I keep thinking every day, if I knew what I knew in the past year and a half, what I know is I would have had different conversations with Sanjeev, but would that have stopped anything? Nobody can predict and say, but I think I feel that hearing our story, other families should have these conversations. At best, it'll help. It can only help.
Yeah.
Or at least you'll know there's not a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. So again, folks, you can visit the foundation website on runforjeev.com, correct? And the annual Run for Jeev 5K run and walk will be held in Conroe on November 26th, the Sunday morning.
Yeah. It's at the Wood Forest Stadium.
Wood Forest Stadium.
It's in the same place as last year. It starts at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
We've had a fantastic response last year, and just as a context, we raised funds last year to Active Minds, which is a national organization mainly keyed into mental health awareness for high schoolers, teens, and young adults. And I'm proud to say that we were all, everybody's helped raise about $32,000 for it. So
for Active Minds last year,
but for Active Minds
this year we will be, whatever proceeds from the race would go to the foundation. So
yes.
So yeah, I mean, again, request all of you to check out the website, and you can click to register on the website. And again, thanks Srini and Nimi for what you're doing. What you're doing is very inspiring, and I hope that people are walking away listening to this and walking away with, of course, the mental health conversation, but also are beginning to see that what you guys are doing with a life event like this is not to get crushed, but use that energy to redirect to a larger purpose, right? And that is phenomenal, right? So thank you for that. I think we covered anything else we need to cover today.
No, I think we covered most of it. Thank you. You guys, I know it's me and Nimi in the name, but we couldn't do it without the whole team.
Yeah.
The whole. It's tough to pull up through these three things without the help of all of you guys, all of your friends. So yes, thank you to you guys. But thanks, Santosh, for giving me the opportunity to continue to spread the word.
Absolutely. All right. So we'll wrap up here, and we'll let and we'll probably have another conversation on the time. But for now, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.